Today, of course, they might be used maybe in a kind of application a little different from the way it was originally. It is still fine. That is, if Shiksha was meant about pronunciation rules, it can be also extended to phonetics or understanding Indian languages from the sound production process onwards. That is what basically is the kind of idea. We understand how it actually originated. Then, of course, try to see if it is applied in a similar or a related scenario. How do we use them, kind of? So, in this line, so one question is about, okay, it was more oral based tradition in the case of Vedic times. Now, of course, it is more written. And even when Vedic things were written, of course, they were initially written with manuscripts alone, palm leaf, birch bark, that kind of thing, or even on stones, some inscriptions and things like that. Today, of course, we have printing, various kind of media where it is able to be used, published, kind of thing. But all the same, there are some pluses and minuses in both. So this is something we should be aware of. So, what is the advantage of, let us say, having an oral tradition, which is not found in the written tradition? Suppose this is the kind of question we put to ourselves. Yeah. Then, of course, the issue is about if the speaker is in front of us, then it provides us a very good opportunity to clarify in case we do not get the content properly. See, the biggest advantage of having a guru in person, in flesh and blood in front of you, is that you are able to clarify things then and there, or ask questions, or ask for explanations, etc. And of course, there is also a divine angle to this. The Vedas insist the guru should be in front and then you touch his feet and then learn. That is not possible in any other mode. If it is through the written mode or any other mode, it is not possible. So to that extent, the divine part gets missing. That is, the Ashirvad of the Guru is missing. Now the second point, of course, is even though this is said about a contemporary time, in the case of Vedas, there has always been a question asked that Vedas were, they are anyway eternal. They were seen at different times by different rishis. And then different rishis have propagated. Now, for example, we take the case of Gayatri Mantra. Gayatri Mantra has been seen and propagated by Vishwamitra. Now, if someone were to learn from Vishwamitra, that's a different thing. Then, of course, he can clarify, he can also know in person. When he is removed in time from the speaker, from the original speaker, there is still a mechanism required. Now, for that, in the case of Vedas, there is always a set of Shastras, that is where the Vedangas are necessary, comes into very useful application when you do not have the person in front, but you want to get the opinion, idea, or the concept of the person. Then if the people have a standardized mode in which they will interact, that standard happens to be useful even for later people. People at the same time, but not in front of them, not interacting with them personally. People who are removed in time. Then over a period of time, it also happens that even these standards used become difficult to be passed on, and that is when the writing starts. But this is the point of the oral tradition is, even though the original speaker is not there, there is a continuous chain of teachers who have had link to the first teacher. And so that tradition preserves some basic aspects of this. Is in very clear contrast in the Vedic field and any other field, including Shastras. There is not the insistence on having this avichinna Guru Parampara in any other field as much as it is stressed in the case of Veda. Simply because it has one more layer of preservation of the meanings, which is through the swaras. And the swaras do take a person to speak it out even though somebody can have some symbols to mark it while writing. So this is an equivalent to indicate to a person there is something special here, maybe something of a certain type. Now, the written thing becomes necessary in certain cases. That is the time when you cannot get the original speaker. Like, let's say, in the case of, let's say, even Bhagavad Gita, we cannot get Krishna again to see, okay, what he meant in any of his Upadeshas. In such a case, yes, there is a scheme that is needed to understand or interpret what has been said. And now this has come down to us through the manuscripts in the initial days. That is, the medium chosen to write this also should live beyond many lifetimes. Suppose some medium has life of a few centuries. No individual is going to live that long, but to that extent it gets ensured. Suppose I have a palm leaf manuscript written, say, 300 years ago. I can go to the level of knowledge that was prevalent 300 years ago, right? Now, these are certain kinds of thinking that goes into. In today's scenario, when we try to compare, there is still a lot more thinking that has to go into to see that something of very high value has certain ways of trying to retain, ways of understanding the original.
One small doubt. Sorry, one small doubt.
Yes.
Because in another class I heard that Vedas are only meant to be recited. It is a sin to write them down.
Yeah, that was a feeling. Yes, in fact, that is only to stress. That is only to stress that you do not get the full result if you write it down. That is true. Then,
yeah, so
going for anything next to the best. So from that point, yes, this is mentioned as a sin. But I'm just saying, times keep changing. This concept, even with an amount of accepted degradation, we still want to get even partial results.
Yeah.
This has happened. This, of course, is also explained about the Yuga Dharma. See, suppose somebody is in the Krita Yuga, he has much better abilities to be able to pursue something. In fact, there is one word used in the Apastamba Dharma Sutra, Niyama. Niyama is what actually makes somebody achieve what he seeks. Now, this Niyama is also called as Tapas. He has said, Niyameshu Tapas Shabda. But Niyama includes himself through any one of the three karanas, kaya, vacha, or manasa, as instructed to be able to get the best. Then the written thing also will make him or make things flash to him, whatever is not there maybe physically in the medium. But that becomes difficult as times pass on. Right from the beginning of first day of Krita Yuga, there is always a kind of a slope which is going down. By the end of Krita Yuga, of course, we have only 1/4 last and only 3/4 of Dharma intact. That is, Treta Yuga begins with 75%, then Dwapara Yuga begins with 50%, and Kali Yuga begins with 25% of what could be the ideal. Though Vedas do not change, Vedas were not written in the earlier times, and people could get the best benefits of them. As the times pass on, the ideal exists, but there is also the gap widening, and hence there are two options. You give up if it is full or nothing. If that is the kind of view someone takes, I will have it fully or let me have none of it. That is one kind of an approach. That may not be very prudent, is what most our ancestors have felt. Those who started writing on the manuscripts. But even then, I have seen some of the very old manuscripts, at least 3-4 centuries old. They did not write this for us when they wrote out the Vedas. They still left it incomplete in an important aspect that they will still go find a teacher in person to complete that. So that this is something more dangerous if someone tries to assume by himself, this could be this way or this could be like that. Suppose you have a Pancharatna Kirtana marked with the musical notation and then try to practice that without having a guru. One, you will never be sure whether this is the way it is. Two, if it is wrong, how to correct what is wrong. The comparison with the standard becomes a difficult thing. Suppose you have a tape, you play the tape and you also recite by yourself. How to find out the difference and more importantly, how to correct yourself. So writing actually reduces. I usually mention in English, of course, people say, when you reduce your thoughts to writing, that word reduce, whether it is intentionally used or not, it is very significant. When you write down thoughts, there is a reduction in the content. There is no doubt about it. Particularly because the emotions cannot get carried through. The feelings, the emotions, the experiences cannot get carried through when something is written. Very simple example is when you have a sentence written, what is your name, with a question mark in the end. What does this question mark specify? It only tells you if you speak this, there should be a specific accent. Otherwise, that symbol of question mark means nothing. Right? So, to that extent, yes, we will lose how was something actually uttered. You will not get 100% is sure. And for that reason, writing is inferior, period, we can say. But the question is, people have also felt, let there be a yearning, let there be a desire to at least see what you can get, what you can help, do something about it. Then, of course, there is one plus point in what the ancestors have done. You allow someone to seek divine blessing along with his own efforts. And those efforts we simply say memory reduces. When we say dharma reduces, there are 4 items that is what the Shastras say. Bala,
Yes, sir.
Dhi, Prana. There are 3 items that actually reduce. One is Shakti, the ability. Vast text to be remembered require physical fitness also. Even in the food that somebody takes, it needs to be sattvika, it needs to be of a particular content, particular quantity, etc., the duration, various things. If that changes, the bala in the body, which is suitable for retaining knowledge, reduces. Maybe something else can be better. Very simple example is put in vegetarian, non-vegetarian also. There are kinds of things which will improve certain abilities, reduce certain abilities, kind of. What is required for retaining a text? A very simple example is about the Shatapadha Brahmana in the Shukla Yajurveda. It has got 104 chapters. That is the biggest of the Samhitas that we currently have, all the 4 Vedas. Now, people used to say, in the olden days, the Shirshasana used to be practiced to improve the memory ability, to see that you are able to retain every word of that without any mistake. So the point is, if the Shakti reduces, number 1. Number 2, memory. The Shakti also is indirectly a factor as an input for what somebody can remember and for how long. For example, diseases, etc. Diseases at another, handicaps, etc. can reduce the ability of a person to remember. Now, Parimita Bala is one, Parimita Dhi is the second thing. Limitations in the memory retention itself. See, earlier days, because of their lifestyle, people could live a full 100 years. And full 100 years with all the senses intact.
Correct.
Not only Shatayush Purushaha, you will also have all Indriyas working as given by God. You will not use specs, you will not use any hearing aids, you will not use any other external appliances to help your Indriyas work. Now, this is reducing, this people are able to see. So, Bala, Dhi and Prana, these 3 reduce progressively right from the day the creation starts. And so, something having this as an input, particularly about the dharma, that reduces. Now, in Kali Yuga, there is one
But
more negative factor.
sir, one question.
Yeah.
How the reduction in prana can be quantified? Bala and dhi can be understood, but
Yes.
prana is a source of energy. So if we say that it reduces gradually from birth to death as we grow older, means how would you
Yes.
justify it then?
Yes. Now, okay. The prana is supported by water. Apomaya pranaha. The Upanishad say, Annamayam hi somya
Hmm.
manaha.
Hmm.
Apomaya
Hmm.
pranaha. Tejomayi
Hmm.
vak.
Hmm.
This
Hmm.
up or water, the
Hmm.
concept of water is the
Hmm.
one that decides the ayus. I am saying the prana's ability
Hmm.
to help retain what somebody learns
Ach-
is it's a shakti of prana. Prana has multiple activities like prana, apana, samana, udana,
Okay.
vyana.
Okay.
Each one has its own
Okay.
function.
Okay.
In the Brahma Sutras, this has been
Hmm. Hmm.
discussed. It says panchavrittihi. The prana is one of the active modes of Vayu
Hmm.
itself.
Hmm.
Among the five
Hmm.
bhutas, it is a type of
Hmm.
Vayu. We call it as prana Vayu also. Okay. This has got five
Hmm. Hmm.
functional
Hmm. Hmm.
usages in the body,
Right.
in
Got
the
it.
human body.
Hmm.
Among them,
Hmm.
this the
Hmm.
kind of water that somebody
Hmm.
uses. In
Hmm.
fact, it's okay. People like us, to this date, we have not drunk water from coming from the tap. We
Hmm.
still use well water or natural water like rivers, ponds, lakes, etc.
Hmm.
This is important because the Vedas have at least 100 varieties of water that
Hmm.
are found in nature with
Hmm.
different abilities, different
Hmm.
Shakti. Among them, some are very suitable for this kind of a spiritual quest.
Hmm.
I would not say without it somebody will not live or not be successful, but this is about
Hmm.
specifically this context.
Hmm.
Now, okay, incidentally, I just mentioned to you there is one samskara called Upanayana
Hmm.
in the among the 16 samskaras, which is very important, which is preparing the student to be capable of learning.
Hmm.
Now, somebody is getting prepared to go to Gurukula, learn the Vedas. Now,
Hmm.
as a preparatory activity, the Shruti says a samskara has a preparation. Upanayana is the samskara. It has got a preparatory activity called Udaka Shanti. This is
Hmm.
one activity that is on the same day. If the muhurta is little later in the times before the muhurta, it can be held, or it is
Hmm.
done in the previous day.
Hmm.
Now, this involves
Hmm.
reciting certain suktas,
Hmm.
certain Vedic suktas,
Hmm.
and invoking the gods in a kalasha
Hmm.
filled with water,
Hmm.
and through darba, the Yajamana touches this and keeps reciting. This is actually called Abhimantrana. Mantras
Hmm.
are recited. This power of the recitation is passed on to the medium of water through the darba grass. Then chosen will help a student in his learning. This is for a brahmachari to be very effective in learning Vedas. In that, there are of course number of suktas and number of purposes for each one of them. There are number of suktas related to water in that. Okay. Now, one mantra very clearly says there are 4 powers of water that we want to invoke for you to be successful in retaining the Veda. Apam Dravane Rasaha. See, the important quality of water or the unique quality of water is Rasa. Among the 5 gunas, Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa and Gandha, Akasha has got Shabda as its unique quality. Vayu has got Sparsha as its unique quality. Tejas has got Rupa as its unique quality. Water has rasa, that is taste. Taste is the asadharana or the unique quality of water. And of course, gandha is for prithvi. Afterwards, of course, all 5 bhutas undergo panchikarana. So you find all of this in all the bhutas. But the predominantly unique feature of water is rasa. Now,
Hmm.
this rasa is of different types. That is what
Hmm.
this should say. When the water is flowing, it has a special kind of this rasa which is highlighted, which is brought forth. Apam yaha rasaha dravane bhavati. Dravana is the word used when it is in the drava form, it is liquid form, and it is moving. Has just by the action of its flowing, just by flow itself, it has one special effect being brought out predominantly. Apam yaha dravane rasaha tam aham asmai amushyayanaya. The mantra says the father has to tell this mantra. There are 4 such mantras in the right ear of the boy, the son, telling him his name and in which nakshatra and rashi he is born. Rasho nakshatre jataya sharmane mama kumaraya. This has to be filled. There is a filling the blank in all these 4 mantras. This is individually to be invoked for that person when this samskara is done. So first of the rasas that Shruti says is Dravane yaha rasaha apam bhavati. That rasa I am invoking to this individual, referring to him by the Gotra, Sharma, Nakshatra, Rashi, and saying the relation, my son, so and so, Asmai Amushyanaya, so and so son by name. These 2 are blanks. Why? Tejase Brahmavarchasaya Grinhami. The rasa of water which is found when it is in Dravana mode, I want to get this to improve Tejas and Brahmavarchas. Tejas and Brahmavarchas is highly improved, highly optimized by water's Dravana rasa. Now, this ensures that someone has to have a flowing water. Usually, earlier days, the Gurukulas used to be on the banks of rivers. Now, what happens? This is daily, continuously available to a person. Now, I am only trying to see where there can be degradation. The whole idea is what is prescribed, what are we using, and hence, what could be the degradation qualitatively. I am talking only about the quality of water, the rasa of water itself as classified. Now, the second one, apanya urma, means the waves. Suppose a river like Alakananda or Bhagirathi, there will be heavy flow of water with speed. You also find having waves in them. That is, it hits the banks, comes back, and when it rebounds, then there is a wave formed there. Now, such rasa is different from even the rasa during Dravana. Apam yaha rasaha urmo bhavati. Tam aham asmai amushyayanaya, that is common. Ojase viryaya grinhami. Oh, the confidence also is important to remember something. No, this I will never forget. I will remember it so often and so strongly that I will never forget this. This goes along with while learning. There is, of course, a number of times a person repeats during the recitation just to see that it gets so etched into the mind of the learner. Now, if you see, a second type of rasa is related to the urmis of water. Apanya urma rasaha tamaham asmai amushyayanaya ojase viryaya grinhami. Ojas is a property which makes the person in front go down, not be able to challenge the person having this knowledge of certain people. The others get subdued, or they feel they get awe, or they get the respect. They start feeling, no, let us not challenge them. That is, it becomes visible to a person even outside that this person holds something which is very superior. Now, the third one says, apanyo madhyato rasaha. Normally, when somebody goes in a pond, lake, or a river, etc., you don't stay closer to the bank. You go as interior as possible to just see it is not so much muddied. So, in the middle of source of water, apayo madhyato rasaha, even in the middle as possible, then the disturbances are less. Water is affected by air, water is also affected by, let us say, there are trees, etc., on the banks, and then leaves falling, etc. And people themselves, suppose there are fish and all that, people start feeding them, etc., things go in. As you move towards the center of the source of water, you are free of these external effects. So even within the same source, the best quality is found at the center. So apam yaha madhyataha rasaha. So these are all insisted. In fact, among the three Sandhya Vandanas, the Madhyanika Sandhya Vandana has got Snana as a very important activity before. There are at least 2 times Snana to be done, Radha Snana and Madhyanika Snana. Radha Snana is to be done in a very short time, so that the Suryodaya should not be missed for the Upasthana in the Sandhya Vandana. The Madhyanika, it is especially actually emphasized, you spend more time. Actually, it is said Dirgha Snana. Of course, Bhojana should be done fast, Shighra Bhojana. Now, this Dirgha Snana, with about 20 minutes it takes to recite certain Ablinga mantras. All mantras that are related to the Abdevatas. There are multiple suktas that are specified. Rata Snana, it is not insisted, but Madhyanika Snana, it is insisted. You do this, then of course, at that time you have full daylight, so someone can go till the middle of the source. Even someone knows swimming, yes, we have seen many shishtas swim while during taking bath, etc. Go to the center and recite these mantras and come back. So this rasa in the madhya adds certain more features, which makes you, of course, devoid of doubts or devoid of any kind of suspicions, or let us say even ashraddha. The Srutis say you will not lose faith. So one of these things in the knowledge part. So one is learning properly, systematically, 2, getting confidence into that. 3rd one, trying to see that you are properly reasoning, and then the conviction results. Then of course the last it says apaya madhyato rasa. So the madhya rasa, what it does, pushtyai prajananaya grinhami. Pushti and progeny. This madhya rasa helps someone have this. We have actually seen, my father of course used to almost live the Vedic life, and he used to say, we have seen people, even among scholars, if someone had not had children, etc., we used to experiment, he used to say, and those who would go till the middle, and then those who knew swimming, etc., used to take this path, etc. They used to have no time. There is santati vicheda in their case. Every one of these words used to have good weightage behind them. It is through a lot of experimentation, rishis have found them to be true. They have experienced them to be true. So these things result in this kind of result.
Sir,
kind of fruit.
One very interesting point which you just mentioned, because I also study a lot about learning and memory, and about what all memory techniques are actually given, are explored. One very important aspect which you mentioned, which I have not read, is how confident you are while learning, how that confidence can improve memory. Fascinating. Now when I think about it, that point is not at all covered in any of the learning and memory books that I have read so far.
Yeah, but traditionally there are many such accounts. Traditionally, there are many. In fact, in our Guru Parampara, among the Vishishtadvaiti, there was one Acharya called Yamunacharya, who was also the teacher's teacher of Ramanujacharya. Ramanujacharya's teacher was one Goshti Purna, Mahapurna, and his teacher was Yamunacharya. Yamunacharya, actually at the age of 11, he went to a king's court to engage the Asthana Pandita of that king, and then he became victorious. At that time, there he actually demonstrated this. Of course, he came from a family of yogis, and so he had some basic initiation, and the supreme confidence actually helped him win the case. There he says, the Vivada or the debate would be on Mimamsa. That was what was decided. He said, fine, Mimamsa includes Vedanta also. It is Vedartha Vichara is Mimamsa. How does somebody understand the meanings or the purport of Vedas? That is the subject content of a Shastra called Mimamsa. It's a single Shastra among the 14 Vidyasthanas. There is no separate Vedanta in the 14 Vidyasthanas. So only Mimamsa is the Vidyasthana that covers both Karmakanda as well as the Brahmakanda. Describing that is also a single Shastra. But the opponent was viewing it as different Shastra. He said, fine, I have no issues. In both the Mimamsas, you go around the entire country. You will not find a person matching me in knowledge of Mimamsa. This is something he declared in the wing. An 11-year-old boy telling the Pandit of a king. And of course, the king was also taken aback. But then the queen then offers, I somehow feel he is going to be victorious. Then I want to offer half the kingdom to him if he wins. That is how, of course, later he got the name called Alavandar. In Tamil, we call him as Alavandar. He got half the kingdom and he also ruled for some time. Later on, of course, he was brought through another yogi to get back into the spiritual life. At that time, it helped. He knew was one issue. But then he said, I am going to put it in such a way, I will disarm the opponents. I will find out their strength and then find a way of weakening them. So what happened was, okay, in the Vadas, he won in the basic Shastra. But then the queen says, no, this is fine, but this should be applied in life somewhere. Mimamsa also has got one aspect called Laukika Nyayas. In fact, today the entire Hindu law is based on Mimamsa Nyayas. The jurisprudence law, it is fully based on Mimamsa Nyayas. Because this is based on Vedas anyway. Our Hindu laws are basically based on Vedas, which talks about Dharma, what is Adharma. And so, in that, there is a section fully called Laukika Nyaya. In Vedas, this is the context, this is the decision. This was the conflict, this is how it was resolved, and this is the principle to be applied in such a conflict to resolve them. Now, how do we apply them into the world, daily life? So, for them, these extensions are called Laukika Nyaya. So, he said, the queen asked, I also want you to show your prowess in applying this in daily world, the worldly life. He says, fine, I will go for an arrangement like this. Among the two of us, me and your Pandit, he is called Kolahala. At that time, his name was called as Kolahala. Between Kolahala and Yamuna, this is happening. He said, now either he makes a statement, I disprove that, or I state something, let him disprove. Then he somehow felt it below his dignity to say something and get it refuted. So you say something, I will refute. So he asked Yamuna to state whatever he wanted to, then he would refute. That is, he wanted to have the last word. Good enough, no problems. Kind of. And he just said, this king is a Chakravarti or Sarvabhauma. Rajayam Sarvabhaumaha. He just could not refute this. This king is not a Sarvabhauma, he should say. But then he said, fine. Mama Mata Navandhya, Twan Mata Navandhya. That is what he asked. Your mother is not a barren woman. Now, if he says she is a barren woman, he is himself alive. Otherwise, he has to agree to what he actually put it. Then you have not refuted, you lose the game. The questions are put in such a way that this is out of confidence. Whichever way I am put into, I will find a way of trying to just see that you can be successful, you can be victorious. Of course, the last one he said, the Rani is a Pativrata. He said, then he was actually flummoxed. It is not possible in front of her to say you are not a Pativrata. So he accepted defeat. But the more important part is when the queen asked her, can you at least disprove one of them? All three I can do if you want to, he said. I know the answers for this. knowledge, creating scenarios where confidence actually is widening the knowledge into various scenarios, adverse as well as helpful or anukula and pratikula. Actually, what we say about this is it is called pratibha. Pratibha is the confidence helping medha. Medha is of course retention. Pratibha helps medha, and pratibha is nava navonmesha shalini. Prajna having new kind of innovations, kind of innovative usages of that. Prajna nava unmesha shalini pratibham viduhu. So this pratibha is the word used. It just strikes you. It just occurs to you at that moment when you are stressed or when you are put into that situation. So it's not just memory. It's not just knowledge. It is applying that to get out of a situation or to handle a situation. That is actually confidence, and this confidence is an angle. For example, if you see those who do the Ashtavadhana, etc., the different kind of concentration that somebody needs, he needs to see that the brain is applied into multiple fields and they are kept alive, open simultaneously. Yeah, so the Shrutis have said this, and there is a good explanation in the Veda. I said about 100 of them. I have written some separately certain articles on this, etc. I am basically wanting to appreciate, make people understand, appreciate. Yes, there has been a very deep study of various things in nature in the Veda, and that is more than enough to see that we can be useful, successful, etc.
Sir,
So
can you tell us where your articles are, where we can start? I tried to search, but I could not find.
I have not put them over there. Yeah, I have not, in fact, put many of them on the web, and many of them are in scribbled form. Now, of course, I am retired. I have to just see, either scan them, put it, or type them and do it, or give it to someone to do, etc. I have to do. But
sir, if it is English, I will volunteer. If it is English, I will volunteer to type.
Yeah, some of them are in English. Now, what I usually do is, whenever I am called for any talk anywhere, I only write out a few mantras, the beginning of mantras, and go. And that is it. And within them, of course, this is hidden. But of course, some have also expanded. But most of them are in those, the mnemonics. I have to do, but yes, it's also worthwhile to explain even one at a time to people, kind of. That's not an issue. We can have, let us say, 100 lectures, each one of them taking one of those mantras, kind of. I'm only saying the Vedic system, oral system had some plus point. It has degradation. It is also true of written system. We are just trying to see there is oral versus written kind of thing, which is a distinct feature of the Vedic or the Indic knowledge base. Even in Shastras, it used to be there. Even in Shastras, you don't have to look into a book or refer to something. You would know the sutras by heart. At least you would know the basic tenets by heart. Because it helps. It comes in very handy. And it gives you more time to think more about them rather than going to reading them itself half the time. So this is one of the, I think it's a deviation that we came from. The whole idea was, so the Vedic knowledge in oral form has certain plus points. It has a degradation. This across the board it applies. There is a degradation wherever you take. Even in scientific knowledge today, in the science also, in the field of science, whatever experiment Einstein did and came to some conclusion, people might only quote that. I don't know how many have actually done that to come to that conclusion, or how many have taken pains to see, could there be some error? Could there be something done differently or coming out with something else, etc. Even in science, it is possible that it becomes stale after some time. One does. So both oral or written forms of those original sources. The next issue is the medium chosen, the longevity of that, and some amount of hidden nature of things. A few things have to have a key, and the key has to be found through some guru, so that it ensures there is no misuse or it does not fall into hands unexpected to have it. Even after writing, yes, there have been cases where it is not very easy, very intelligible when you take. One important feature is there is no punctuation. There is no concept of punctuation when the manuscripts are written. There is no comma, full stop, space, whatever. And of course, it's also difficult to rewrite, overwrite, etc. So you write something, even if it has gone wrong, you would find some other way. Maybe leave some margins and there you write or whatever. And some later manuscripts, we have seen some colors being used. But it's a blessing in disguise, so that, okay, because of that, at least someone goes, approaches somebody. See this. direct human in the loop has to be ensured to be really understanding or getting what was the original. So even when it was written, it was reluctantly written, and so it does not have the 100% content. It cannot have also is one of the factors that I mentioned. That is when that it is a sin to write was mentioned. But even in the Vyakhyas, people have tried to show we don't disagree, but we settle for something less. This is by conscious decision, someone settles for something next to best, second best, third best, whatever. And that is the only thing which is practically wise to do. Otherwise, you will never get the Vishwamitra Vasishtha to teach, and you don't have to remain an ignoramus all your life. So one can at least have 5%, 10%, whatever somebody can achieve. To that extent, these are helpful.
Sir, you don't have to answer this question now because I'm conscious of the time also.
Yes.
But I have this one simple rule of thumb I strongly feel and believe deep inside is, over thousands of years, our rishis and munis were able to absorb and understand the nature of things, nature of consciousness, nature of people, and nature of the universe itself.
Yes.
And that is what has been captured.
Yes.
So they should also have been able to foresee what is about to come.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I think as you said, okay, I will just take this up later.
Yeah. So when they have foreseen,
Yes.
what is it that they have foreseen? Is there something that they foresaw thousands of years ago? Is it transpiring now? Is there something that we can actually come up saying that this is unique, this is not present anywhere in the world, but this is coming from our Vedas, and this is what we mean?
Yeah. Though this part I will maybe, we will have a different session, maybe one-to-one sometime. Yeah.
Sure.
Fine. You just remind me sometime and we will do this. That's not.
Sure, Ramanujan.
Yeah. I will go further. On the syllabus side, I wanted to just take the second part. Sources of the knowledge part, the oral sources versus the written sources. It is important to know when we started writing the Vedic text. Plus, even then, whether we knew the inherent fallibilities, inherent disadvantages of that. Yes, it was known, but still it was chosen. Now it was chosen fully for the other fields where there was no swaras involved, like Puranas or the Kavyas, Sahitya, any general text. There is not much to be lost. In any case, if there is an interpretation, yes, there used to be a coding system. For example, the Jyotisha has got a coding system, Ayurveda has got its own codes. Anything where there is going to be a life-threatening situation, it's important that everyone just does not get it so openly. There needs to be some processing, there has to be some kind of encapsulating that knowledge, or there has to be some kind of codified form of putting that in. So even while writing, it is not that the entire thing was just like that left open. And they saw it is not good, it is not in the interest of anyone to see that just like that things are thrown open. Because it can get misused, then the blame might come on the system. That is the reason they felt the system being right, it's wrong administration can help. Someone try to argue, fine, no, this itself is bad. So that there used to be a way of something to hide or something to give a layer to wrap it with. In the Vedas, of course, the swaras are very difficult to get from writing. It is not possible. And there has to be a person in front. And of course, there can be variations about that. There are a number of Shiksha texts. When we come to Shiksha, of course, I want to also stress a few issues which are definitely missing in non-Vedic texts. And so we need to know what is very clearly distinguishing Vedas from the rest of the text. Swaras basically distinguish them from the rest of them. And swaras are not just like, saying there is a variation in pitch or amplitude, etc. There is a lot more to that. They are actually semantic. That is one of the basic issues. We are not able to show the feelings or emotions when you write. It's simply because the emotions are there with every vowel or consonant that someone uses, and it is not at the word level or the sentence level. It is at the alphabet level. It is at the literal level itself. So,
Sir,
for that,
how authentic are some of the Veda teaching schools or gurus in US who are teaching those Vedas to some of the interested students? Because I've seen some of my own classmates sign up for those classes.
yeah. See, yeah, that is something, okay. In fact, there are also similar things in the country. In the country also there will be varying quality, varying kind of types of teaching classes, etc. And there are also variations between individuals. See, I can't say I am the perfect person. Someone else can have, there's a different thing you can always say. Right, wrong is difficult to judge. There will be 100 different ways of reciting the same thing if you go across the country or even outside. But the whole issue is the lakshanas do not change, and lakshanas are very few. Lakshanajnas are very few. Those who know lakshanas are very few. Even in lakshanas, yes, there are ambiguities, there are difficult, there are ways of differently interpreting, etc. See, on the one side, any knowledge-based enterprise has an inherent ability to be put differently. It's simply because the speaker and the listener are not on exactly the same wavelength as far as the mental faculties go.
Correct.
Even in hearing, the same thing can be heard differently by different people.
Yes.
It depends on their own basic level.
Correct.
So this variation is to be expected. Now, if this is the case with the oral system, one can imagine when it comes down to writing, it will get multiplied. That is one of the reasons they always said. And there are, of course, many inbuilt protection mechanisms. That is what the Lakshana Granthas do. The Lakshana Granthas are meant for Rakshana. Actually, in Mahabhashya, Patanjali mentioned Rakshana and Lakshana, Ralayor Abhedaha. That is, Ra can be used interchangeably with La. In the Loka, you go by Lakshana. The Lakshya is defined by Lakshana in the case of Loka. In the case of Veda, the Lakshya is protected. So the Veda Lakshanas are Veda Rakshanopayas, and not, if something is not into, he is said to have committed an offense. So the rules precede action in the Laukic sphere. The teaching statements exist prior to the Lakshanas. And so Lakshanas only describe, they don't prescribe. So the prescription is in the Loka, description is in the Vedas. But Panini also has been very humble to say, I use my best ability to describe as truly as I can. This is what he mentioned. And he has given many exceptional usages in the Veda. He has tried to find some generalization. The more generalize, it becomes easier to remember and retain and propagate. So he tried his best, and there is no better effort ever seen so far. The world today happily admits that it was a monumental, example of human intelligence achievement, what somebody could do. That was because of the purity of purpose, because of the nobility of the purpose that he had, and the ultimate humility he had. So in that sense, yes, it is important to see when someone has Vedas, Vedangas, Upangas, these 14 Vidyasanas, 4 Vedas, 6 Vedangas and 4 Upanga, all having a single unique purpose of trying to see the Vedic texts are preserved and propagated. There are two things both together treated as a duty in the case of learning Vedas, Swadhyaya and Pravachana together. Everyone has to learn, every Brahman has to learn Veda, it says. And every person, every Brahmin who learns the Veda has to teach it at least to one more person. These are two things, Swadhyaya and Pravachana. This is not to help the other person to make his own learning complete. This is what the Veda says. Unless you teach it to someone fully what you have learned, you will not be able to make this well-rounded or properly improved or properly usable kind of. Many things come to light when you have to explain to someone else. So
Correct.
Vedas made this as part of the learning itself. It does not do any favor to anyone else. It's not treated as an upakara. So this is an important aspect It is you are given practically to apply as part of what you learn, so that you are confident and this will benefit the other person. Fine. So in the Vedas, we have various statements which are difficult to be understood easily. So we have Vedangas which help them. So in the Vedangas, we have 6 of them, we said. Phonetics, Shiksha is the first one, that is about the speech aspects. Then Vyakarana is about the word, grammar, its formation, etc. Chandas is about the meter, the various rhythm, the Vedic mantras, how they have to be recited. Shiksha, Nirukta. Nirukta is the etymology. Even for every root, there is some meaning associated with every basic sound itself. Ka has got some meaning aspect related to it. Ka has another. These are generally called as like bijaksharas. If you say various mantras have some bijaksharas, there is some potency in every letter, and that through various combinations can be used to generate words, etc. And this is also true of Veda mantras. So Veda mantras also have from every letter, like Agni is generatable from 4 different verbal roots. This is what the Nirukta tells us. Etehe akaramadatte, gatehe gakaramaadatte, nitehe nakaramaadatte. Like that, it takes A from this root, Ga from this root, Na from this root. This is how that process explained. The etymology is how from basic sounds the Vedic words get formed, Vedic syllables get formed. That is, every vowel, every consonant has its own contribution in the meaning. The accents contribute to the meaning. Now there is this, I usually call it as CVA. C is consonant, V is vowel, A is accent. CVA is any basic Vedic syllable. It has 3 aspects. C and V have 8 factors each, and the accents Ka ityesha udahritah. Ka, if you take in the Vedas occurring, it has 26 parameters associated with this. 8 with the vowel A, 8 with the consonant K, and whatever the accent, Udatta, Anudatta, Surta, etc., that has got 10 parameters. So there is a way of reciting the Vedas called Varnakrama. This is usually done after Ghananta Pata. Somebody becomes a Ghanapati, and after that, there is one more level called Varnakrama Pata. This Varnakrama explicitly talks about these 26 parameters of every Vedic syllable, and that was the ultimate, whatever could be known. In fact, once I had an occasion to make a presentation about this in the parliament to the then Prime Minister Narasimha Rao, and he simply said after the presentation, I took one word called Madhavaha in the Vedas, and its explanation through Varnakrama goes to 1.5 pages of printed text. We had a simple program. It is easier to generate this through a program because that is quite fixed. There is no issue. It's basically a 26 by 73 matrix. So we have a matrix. If you use a program, IJ you give, it can give you. But to understand that and recite like that requires a lot of traditional training and maybe years of oil. Then he finally said, I'm amazed at the level of expertise of our ancestors that every letter of the Vedas, so much is packed in.
Yes.
And they have given you a systematic way of understanding this. So this is something that is a great point as far as
that is
Vedas
why
go.
When I hear you all as a part of this course, I get goosebumps. Literally, I get goosebumps.
Yes.
When I see the sophistication of the mind that could conceive and think about this, and something that they could come up with which lasted so many thousands of years with so much of meaning. And what pains me, literally it pains me, that at the same time I feel so excited and get goosebumps, and at the same time I feel so pained that why have these things not been popularized for the general public? And I personally feel at least that is one of the decisions that I am making a portion of my life, definitely for the rest of the life, how much ever that God has given me. This is one of the things I'm interested in doing.
Yeah, in fact, I will share with you, there is one paper that I wrote on the experimental phonetics on the one side and the Shiksha Shastra, which talks about this Varnakrama. So it is important to know what are those 26 parameters and then how does somebody actually get that. Okay, and the idea is to see the factors that are emphasized. Some are physically verifiable and some are not, but both are put together. There is a devata for every letter, whether it is vowel or consonant. Now this devata cannot be seen by us, but that is one of the ones which actually have the elements under their control. The elements are of course affecting us. To see that their effect is accounted for, this term called devata is used. There is also a jati for every letter there. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra there for Vedic letters. Why is this used? Again, the explanation given is you pronounce this very correctly. That entire jati you have protected them. You get that punya of rakshana of that full jati. So this is a very easy way of trying to get so much more. It has a very high amplificatory factor. But at the same time, there is also a caution. If you utter one letter wrongly, you get the sin of killing that entire race. So this is something that is, even those factors have got the reason behind. And this of course is a very simple thing as far as a matrix goes, but to understand, to show it. I have actually written some papers earlier on this Purusha Sukta alone. Take Purusha Sukta in Yajurveda. For those 18 mantras, I have tried to give this explanation. All the Shadangas used to that. This is of course my father taught us. When we started learning, he taught for every letter with the 6 angas and then trying to see that this is very rare. It's not going to be available in future. See that this is carried on. So the idea is the Vedas have the Vedangas ably helping their interpretation. So we have Shiksha, we have Vyakana, we have Chandas, we have Nirukta. We also have Jyotisha, which is about the astronomical angle, when the yajnas have to be performed, which at what time, how many, what is periodicity, etc. And various celestial events, they are all possible to be known through the Vedic astronomy, Vedanga astronomy. Then the last is the Kalpa, which gives you the entire prayoga of how to use these mantras to get certain results. Okay, so from that point of view, anyway, I'm just wanting to see that the Vedic, non-Vedic difference, let it be clear. And in the Vedas, whatever is the rigor that is there, so that has to be slowly brought in. We take some examples, we take some, because the website last time also I mentioned to you people, the IASC website.
Yes, we have that. Sir, I have given my email ID in the chat. Sivaji, can you please send Ramanujachari's...
the bkbalakishore@gmail.com.
Yes. Okay. You are able to see that.
Wonderful. No problem.
Yeah.
No, it is important that even outside of the class timings, we should be able to interact. I have no issues. Whenever somebody wants to interact, I am open through mail, through phone, whatever. There is no issue on that. No, it is important.
So sometime in October second week, I am in Bangalore.
Fine.
If you are there, I would love to come and then have your darshan.
When you are here, just send a mail or give a call.
Yeah.
We should be able to meet. That is not an issue. We will do that.
Sure.
So the point is, it won't be possible to fix it in some given class hours.
Yes.
Somebody can put in, one will be able to benefit. Okay.
Sir, I have also requested Dr. Sai to create a shareable drive where we can put whatever material we want to share with the students and with each other. Because, for example, the other day, Dr. Tilaka Rao ji was mentioning about some 5 volumes of Kutumba Sastri's Teach Yourself Samskrita. So I was able to download all those books.
Sanskrit Samsthan's publications.
Those are not available now, but I have all the soft copies which I want to make available to whoever is interested, not just for our group, but even outside.
Yeah.
So we are trying to create that. and
Yeah, please share.
whatever. Yes, yes,
But the first of them we actually converted into a multimedia. The Prasama Diksha, we made the entire thing as a multimedia CD that was funded by Rashtriya Samskrit Samsthan when he was the Vice Chancellor. When Kutubu Shastri was the Vice Chancellor, it was completed during Radha Vallabh Tripathi's time. So we have the first volume of that available online through a CD kind of thing we made. Of course, it did not complete as a web version. Yeah, the rest of them we would like to have. Okay, please share. That is Prasama Diksha, Dvitiya Diksha, like that. Tritiya Diksha.
yes, yes. We have. I have downloaded all those, and I would like to share with everybody.
You are welcome. You are welcome. And see, in this course, the idea is basically to have as much of knowledge as it can be applied.
Correct.
It is not be a very dry subject or just listening to. You even take cases where this will help us get clarity. That
yes,
fine.
Sir. I am personally very interested in the application of these concepts in different fields that we can apply today. For example, I'll just take another half a minute of your time. When you just talked about memory,
yes,
I am very interested how in the oral tradition, memory forms an extremely important component, as you just mentioned. So what were those components in our Sanskriti, in our culture, which helped to continue that memory? And can some of those disciplines be used today for our own students, for our own professionals? Similarly, there are rules in terms of Vada and Prativada, how you are going to have a conversation, how you should critique, how you should try to understand the other person's perspective. My interest is to translate those principles so that today we can create those rules of engagement and share in the organizations and say, if you want to have more effective meetings, if you want to have more effective conversations, these are the principles from our Vedas which are applicable even today. Can we have that conversation? So that is my interest. Like, for example, innovation. You just talked about innovation and creativity. What are those principles? Can those be written in a form and created so that it can far and wide circulated and we can test it on the floor?
Yeah, see, one very simple example. Innovation comes up only when you are challenged.
Correct.
Now, there is one story, of course, it's attributed to various people like Dr.P.Rama and others. This is just for children to get the idea. See, a king has every year on his birthday a lot of events, a lot of sports events. And then one of them, of course, is horse racing. And of course, the horse that comes first, he just laughs at it and says, hey, someone comes to watch a horse, only it is good at running. And horses are enjoyable only when they are running. And among them, of course, the fastest horse is what has been all the time. Throughout tradition, we have been doing. If you want to give prize to the last horse, there won't be any charm, there won't be any interest for people to even watch such a program. Then the minister says, see, they're running fast, I will take care. You only announce that the prize goes to the last horse. That's all I want you to do. Nothing else will change. It will be very interesting, maybe more interesting than the earlier years. Okay. He is now able to get there. How is he going to do anything? Then, okay, the day came and then okay, the event started. This minister went to the riders and he told them, exchange your horses. See, no one will be riding his own horse. And the last horse gets the prize. Now, anyone has got a horse which is not his. So, if this is driven fast, his horse will be left behind. So, the prize goes to the last horse mean, it does not really mean we will go like slow cycle race. It won't be like that. You can have the fast running either way, whether the first one gets the prize or the last one gets the prize. But the only thing, a little change in the rules of the game, or let us say the initial conditions, that can take care. So in the Shastras, basically the innovation is brought about saying, You don't have to change anything. Some ground rules. For example, this avagraha is one very, very powerful tool in Sanskrit. Somebody can split let us say in cases where there is a Savarnadirgha Sandhi. This has been applied even in Upanishads. See, when we have this Tattvamasi, Tattvamasi is a very famous Upanishadic statement, and then of course there have been a lot of debates about what it says. Now there is one Siddhanta which has split this as Atattvamasi also. You have one Upanishad Bhashya where it says Atattvamasi. This is the word split in the original Upanishad, and so you are not that, is the conclusion. Now, how is this admissible when someone were to ask? The previous word is Atma there. Sa Atma Tattvamasi Shvetaketo. This is how the whole sentence is. So the previous word is Atma. Atma plus Tat. There is no hard and fast rule. It should be only split as Atma and Tat. Can also be split as Atma and Atat. Then the entire thing changes. It becomes diametrically opposite. And
Yes.
these have been there in various granthas. There are many such cases. Avagraha problem, we generally say, is avagraha can be used. You can assume an akara in places like. So it's all. I mean, where there is a possibility and how to exploit that. This is what innovation actually looks at the various things that are unused or untapped, and then where there is a potential. I think it is good that we should have as much interaction as possible. There's no problem.
Sure.
We will continue, and I will also put some of my papers. Now I had a problem with my laptop. Of course, it has been formatted and all. I'm trying to put back this thing. This time I will also try to separate out and then have some folders for this. I'll have all my papers, whatever is available in English. Yes, some are available in Sanskrit. But anyway, let us see.
No, but that is also okay because we will start reading and learning.
Yeah, we'll put it up, and there's no issue. So that in this course, of course, Sanskrit is also given equal importance.